Now, we have a couple of questions in the outbox, and I think this first question is for Vlado. It seems that your passion for research grew while working as a clinician. Are there any steps that you took as a medical student, or in hindsight, any opportunities you wished you had taken as a student towards becoming a clinician-scientist? Elizabeth, feel also free to answer as well.
Look, thanks, Steve, and thanks for the question. There's certainly a lot I would have done in retrospect, but to be honest, I when I was going through medical school, really didn't have a concept that there was such a thing as a clinician scientist, and always thought of them as being two entirely different things. So there was nothing that I did, but in retrospect, I think there's wonderful opportunities now for people who are studying, people who are working in JMO jobs or intern jobs around our health service, people who are in allied health, to get involved in research and to find the bit that really gets you excited. I mean, I always loved high quality evidence. I was attracted to evidence-based medicine as a medical student, and that sort of, I think, was the first clue to me that this was probably the area where I was going to be passionate and spend my time. And as a medical student, it would have probably been great if I'd had the opportunity to get involved in some of those projects and sped things up, for me a lot earlier. I published my first paper at the age of 30, and have sort of taken it off from there. But my eldest son, who's also a medical student, a final year medical student now, has just published his first paper, having got involved during his undergraduate training. He's spent some time working with a clinician researcher and has already developed a great interest in research, which is fabulous. So I'd encourage everyone to get involved and to try different things, to see, many people I know hate clinical research and love lab type research, and that's great. Good luck to them. It's not for me. But each of us are different, and by sort of exploring different things, I think you can find your passion.
Thank you. And Professor Elliott?
Well, I'd echo what Vlado said, and I mean, I think it's a fabulous career with such variety. But I think what I meant to mention and didn't was that in England, the academic stream is embedded at a very low level. So as a registrar, I was a lecturer at the University of London. As a senior registrar, I was a lecturer at the University of Leicester. So I was sort of inculcated, as were others, in that lifestyle of working in a hospital, being a clinician, but being involved in research and education. And I think it's a pity we don't have more of those opportunities in the system here, because it does lead into people appreciating the value of a life as a clinical academic, or a clinical scientist, as we call ourselves now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where an organisation like the Australian Academy can step in and provide strong advocacy for development of clinician scientists, because I think they are probably the most important people in our medical system for translation and advancement. There are a couple of other questions. If you don't know what specialty you want to end up in, but want to start doing some research now, do you think that research is still useful if it's in a different field from what you ultimately end up choosing? So maybe Professor Elliott, if you can tackle that first, and I'll get Professor Perkovic to follow.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, I think people don't realise, one, how interesting research can be, and two, I think how difficult it is to get a paper published. So for a student to get a paper published, or a young doctor to get a paper published, it does give them a nice introduction into research. It gives them that sense of satisfaction, and it really does help their career prospects. Because I think people, if you're interviewing someone new for a job, you need a differentiator. It's important for all of us, as I said, to be critical about what we do and to use the evidence. So even if you don't become a researcher long term, to be able to understand what the process is, what the methods of study are, how to find the research and how to critically evaluate it is really important for a clinician as well as a researcher.
And I agree with Liz entirely. I think, it's a wonderful opportunity, not just to actually explore whether an area is something that you like, because by doing some research in the area, you'll get a much deeper understanding, and you'll get to know some of the ins and outs, and it may help you choose the area that you want to go into. I don't think you'll lose anything if you do some research in an area that's different to where you end up. In fact, that sort of texture that it gives you and that complexity is a really positive thing, not to mention what you learn from just the methodological aspects. It's wonderful to be not just learning about the evidence, but actually generating it. And one of the most exciting things for me is when you first see some new data about some research that you've been involved in, and there's something special about being one of the first people in the world to know something that's going to help move medicine and science forward. And it's an incredibly addictive and thrilling feeling that I'd encourage everyone to try and experience.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I might read out one comment for you, Elizabeth. Thanks for the talk, Elizabeth. The immigration story was heart-wrenching. Thank you for making a change and a difference to their plight. And I think all of us would like to echo that. I might just ask one more question, which I think is pertinent, because we do want to encourage our students to embark on the path, or the very rewarding path, of a clinician scientist. How do we get involved in research as a student? So maybe Vlado, if you want to tackle that.
Yeah, it's much easier than you think. At the end of the day, many of the people who you'll be learning from, who'll be teaching you, who'll be on the wards with you, who'll be in the health services, will be doing research on the side. Talk to them, and they'll love telling you about your research. Rest assured, there'll be no problem there. And show an interest. You don't have to be the first author on a paper to benefit from being involved in some research. You can contribute in a whole range of different ways and get a sense of what it's about. And if you are really enjoying it and contribute, you may well get to be an author and even a first author. No one generally expects people who are just starting out necessarily to be the first author on papers, but it's the depth of understanding and experience that you'll get from being part of that that's really critical. So just go and ask.
Professor Elliott?
Yeah, just give us a ring. We've always got work that we need doing. We have a summer student project, which is nice to give people just a taste for over 4 to 6 weeks of what it's like to do some research. Of course, there are honours projects and master's projects. What we're finding is that a lot of people who do an undergraduate degree wanting to get into medicine have that year where they're doing the GAMSAT or waiting to hear what's happening, and that's a very useful year to either do honours or to do some research projects. So as Vlado said, there are always opportunities.
Well, with that, I'd like to close the session, and I would like to thank both Professor Perkovic and Professor Elliott. I'm sure that everybody would agree that their life as a clinician scientist has been most rewarding. You are very successful and have made significant impact, not only in the field of medicine, but on societal impacts more widely. And you two are shining examples of what a person can become. So thank you very much for dedicating a Saturday morning. And if anybody would like to participate or be a member of their team, I'm sure you could reach out to both Professor Elliott and Professor Perkovic.